DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health. At Merck Animal Health, we're shaping the future of animal health with pioneering science, connected technology, and insights-driven solutions to bring our customers an unparalleled portfolio of choices to improve cattle care and operational efficiency. We support you and your legacy by helping you meet the challenges of today with the innovations of tomorrow.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We're gonna have a great show. Dr. Erin Beyer is with us today from Kansas State University. We're gonna talk about the beef carcass. We're gonna talk about what goes on in the plant, what goes on with palatability, the consumer, so much more. Stay tuned. Hey folks, Dr. Dan here. Welcome to DocTalk Season of Giving with Merck Animal Health. This week, we're gonna give away a compressor. Now you're saying, how do I win this? The way that you win this, you're going to go to our website, www.doctalktv.com. Just click Season of Giving, register for our newsletter, and you'll automatically be entered to win this compressor. If you win this compressor, we're going to throw a DocTalk cap in on it as well. Thanks for watching the show, and we'll see you down the road.
They're here. They're hungry. And they can't be stopped with ivermectin. Choose Safeguard when you deworm your cattle to take out resistant parasites like brown stomach worm, Cooperia, Nematodiris, and others. With Safeguard's efficacy, you can kill more resistant worms in your cattle, so you don't leave potential on the table. Consult your veterinarian for the diagnosis and treatment of parasitism. Then bite back at safeguardworks.com.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson, and I'm here with Dr. Erin Beyer. And Dr. Erin is an assistant professor of sustainable meat and industry, correct?
That is correct.
She is here at Kansas State University in the Department of Animal Science and Industry, and you've got quite a big job.
I do, yes. I just started here in July, and this is my first job in extension. So I was previously at North Dakota State University and worked with a lot with students. I had a research and teaching kind of split, but now I'm on the extension side, and I get to deal with small meat processors, producers, and a lot of youth around Kansas. So we haven't really had someone in this position in about 6 years. So I'm excited to refill that position and fill a need that I think Kansas really had.
Well, I appreciate it, and we know how busy you are. We're so thankful you could be on the show. And we wanted to talk about the carcass because things have been changing in the beef industry over the last 10, 20 years. And one of them is the size of the carcass that we produce, correct?
Absolutely. Carcasses are at one of the all-time highs today than they ever have been. We've been seeing this trend for over 20 years probably, and progressively carcasses keep getting bigger. I think maybe there was a time that we're like, well, maybe carcasses will level out, or we won't see this exponential increase in growth. However, it's really gone the other way for a lot of different reasons: economic, genetics, a lot of things happening on the live side. But looking at just the plant statistics, we have seen that the carcasses keep continuing to get bigger and bigger. So today, the average, based off of CAB Insider, was 960 pounds. And that is one of the largest, if not the largest, for this month. So we track it month by month to compare back to previous years. And that article listed that this is the largest for where we are in the year. Maybe even more importantly is that we're seeing a bigger bump week by week. So from last week to this week, it was 10 pounds increase, which is one of the largest that we have seen. So yeah, we've progressively been getting larger, and still now in this winter fall transition, having the largest increase from week by week.
It wasn't terribly long ago these were heavyweight carcasses,
right?
And now they're average carcasses.
Anecdotally, from when I first started going into a beef plant, which was about 10 years ago, I think seeing a carcass over 1,000 pounds was kind of hard to find. Most carcasses were 700-800 pounds with correlating ribeye sizes, and now finding something under 1,000 pounds is almost impossible in a lot of these beef packing plants. And we've seen that shift also within our premium programs too. So not only are we seeing, just mostly everything's over 1,000 pounds, especially this time of the year. And because of that, We have seen CAB open up that carcass size to now include carcasses up to 1,100 pounds due to this increase in carcass size, and they made that change in 2022 in the fall, and that it allowed, at that time, about 4% more carcasses to be included into the CAB program. I think today probably even more than that if we're comparing back to the 1050 weight.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll see how the market goes, but we're still on that same trend of seeing those bigger carcasses week by week.
It's just an unbelievable trend, and we see it in the industry. And so we have the expert here to talk a little bit as we move forward. What is this impact of increased carcass size? What's it had to do with technology in the plant, palatability, and our consumers? So we're glad to have Dr. Erin Beyer here with us. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with DocTalk.
Hi, my name is Dr. Kirk Ramsey with Neogen. Today, we're going to talk about getting those first calf heifers to breed back. Their success is our success. So here's how we can help them thrive. First, nutrition matters big time. These new moms have incredibly high nutrient requirements. So not only are they still growing, but lactation takes it to a whole new level. So in order to meet those demands, separating and supplementing them away from the mature cows is something we probably should be considering. Second, body condition score is key. Heifers with a body condition score of 6 at calving are way more likely to breed back on time. So let's make sure to be tracking that. Third, early breeding season is a win-win. Start the season earlier for heifers. Heifers bred within 21 days of the first breeding cycle are more likely to breed back. They're going to wean heavier calves, and it's even shown that they're going to last longer in our herd. And last, address energy demands as early as possible. Energy requirements at calving skyrocket almost immediately, and compensating for poor condition after calving is nearly impossible. So focus on the last months prior to calving to make any condition adjustments that you need to. So by nailing these couple points, we boost their breeding success, leading to a healthier herd, heavier calves, and a more profitable operation.
Thanks for watching Cattle Intel by Neogen.
I've been a veterinarian since 1987. My wife and I set up a practice in Monette, Missouri in 1989. We started using therapies shortly after it came out. I was overwhelmed with the positive response that we were getting from producers. They could noticeably see a difference. I have to admit that I was pretty skeptical at first. I am currently 110% sold on the product. There is no doubt in my mind that this is an added product that we can use on these cattle that is going to make a significant difference.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Dr. Erin Beyer. She is an assistant professor of sustainable meat science and industry here at Kansas State University. She has an extension position, she has a research position, and she comes with a tremendous meat science background. And we were talking about increased carcass size.
Right.
And that, you know, we think of it as something that everybody wants, but it can cause some issues.
Absolutely. The first place that I think we see that it causes issues is in the plant. So whenever, and that really drives any discounts that we see on pricing on the grid for carcass size, is really due to a lot of plant logistics that maybe not everybody thinks about, because not everybody's been in a beef packing plant, right? And primarily the problem comes with a lot of these plants were built a long time ago. Carcasses were a lot smaller. So moving these carcasses that are what used to average when they were built maybe 700 or less pounds up to the 960, like I mentioned, I mean, that's going to cause kind of two things, right? More weight on the actual rail system, but probably where you visibly see issues is carcasses being longer. So now, as carcasses are moving to the harvest floor, there are places in which maybe their necks drag and they have to be cut off, and then that's loss of yield. Even in plants that are even older that I spend a lot of time at, they're dragging all the way into the sales cooler because yeah, they weren't built for carcasses that way. Sometimes in that plant particularly, we see carcasses that are 1,200 pounds. And those will always have to even be cut into the chuck. So it can be a loss of product due to them potentially touching the ground. And the other thing, back to the general weight, if we're packing the same number of carcasses per rail, Those rails weren't necessarily built to handle that amount of weight. Those older packing plants had a lot of wood beaming, a lot of them still do, and they weren't designed to carry that that much more poundage. So I have visibly seen rails just fall down, entire rails of carcasses, and it's just just because of the weight issue. It's not lack of maintenance or anything that the plant really can control. It's just these carcasses are big and they're doing the best that they can to accommodate for the size, but can't always just build a new plant to accommodate for these big carcasses. So that's probably, from a plant perspective, one of the reasons why we see discounts for carcass size. The other one, which we can probably talk about when it comes to the consumer aspect, is how do these big carcasses then fit on a plate for a consumer?
Yeah, and we see that, and nobody wants to split a steak.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so then we cut them thin, and then we don't like those. But we'll talk more about the consumer. But the market trends and the market with decreased head count, we have to increase the size of the carcass to make up for it. But the other thing that's in the plant, I'm going to guess, is that there's probably more fat that has to be trimmed in these bigger carcasses of animals of similar genetics.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've seen an increase in yield grade. So the larger that number, the lower yielding the carcasses are, and an increase in the fat thickness, essentially, when we're taking that yield grade measurement. Throughout in the National Beef Quality Audit, which is measured every 5 years, that has been a trend. We saw a pretty big bump from 2011 to 2016 in both of those attributes. We also saw an increase in ribeye size, but more disproportionately, we were seeing an increase in that fat thickness. So not only will we see a discount on carcass size, but then we will see a double discount on those fat carcasses as well.
So bigger is not always better, but when we sell on a carcass weight basis, we're selling pounds of carcass, and it does cause some issues. So when we see those discounts, Dr. Erin was great to explain those. We're going to take a break. When we come back, more with Dr. Erin Beyer here at Kansas State University.
Every farmer knows that understanding the landscape is the most important ingredient for success. When it comes to investing in precious metals, United Patriot Coin can help steer you in the right direction. No obligation, just solid advice. Call now for your free guide, 844-202-7834.
When it comes to treating BRD, you want a product that you can count on to get the job done at an affordable price. Macrocin by Bimeda delivers on both. A straight shooting, no BS tulathromycin that does what it's supposed to do. End of story. You don't need to take our word for it though. Go to macrocin.com for customer testimonials and head-to-head trial results. For your cattle and your bottom line, choose Macrocin.
In the livestock industry, castration is a common practice to ensure proper herd management. All methods are painful, regardless of the age of the animal. At Solvit, we could not ignore the clear industry need for better castration solutions. So we developed LidoBand, a novel lidocaine-impregnated elastrator, addressing the pain associated with band castration. It provides local anesthesia throughout the castration process. LidoBand, a small device that can make a big difference.
Ranchers, looking to elevate your pasture management game? Turn to Heinen Brothers for expert aerial application. With state-of-the-art equipment and seasoned pilots, we deliver precision treatments right to your fields. From fertilizers to herbicides, Heinen Brothers has your pasture covered. Visit HeinenBrosAg.com to learn more.
When the ones who have your heart need your help, count on us for everything they deserve, delivered fast. We'll work hard for you so you can work hard for your dreams.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Dr. Erin Beyer. We're in Manhattan, Kansas at Kansas State University, where Dr. Erin serves as the Sustainable Meat Science and Industry Assistant Professor and Extension Specialist for the state of Kansas and beyond. Very busy person, lots going on, and we're glad to catch her. Let's talk about palatability and carcasses and how they've changed or how they can be impacted.
Right. So palatability in general, on base level, we describe that as the pillars of tenderness, juiciness, and flavor. Historically, we would say that tenderness was the most impactful for a really long time, probably mostly because we see the most variation. So we can see huge impacts or variation in tenderness between animal to animal, breed to breed. A lot of things impact tenderness. That can be a whole different talk by itself.
Right.
However, the other two are also, we now know, equally or more important than tenderness. But really, most importantly, they all combine to the overall eating experience for the consumer. So me as a meat scientist, that's a lot of what my job is making sure that we get the highest quality beef to the consumer every time. Carcass size, it has an impact in a couple different ways. So I think when we think about as carcasses get bigger, what should we expect? For one, as we've mentioned, we're going to see that those are going to be typically lower yielding carcasses because they're going to deposit more external fat. However, as they're doing that, they're also depositing more internal fat, which is a good thing.
Right.
Now we're going to have higher quality carcasses. So while we might have a little bit more fat opposite the ribeye, we also could and do see higher quality grades. And we know that quality grade, the amount of marbling in those middle meats, absolutely correlates to a better eating experience for the consumer. So that is always going to be a positive when it comes to the overall palatability. Other impacts that we could see would be potentially on tenderness. I got a question not that long ago that somebody who is a lot, probably my grandparents' age, they were like, I've seen the beef industry go through a lot of different changes and waves over the past 50 years, and I really think that beef is not as tender now as it used to be. And I thought about it, and it's like, well, and they asked about carcass size. Like, well, carcasses are bigger now. Does that mean that they're tougher because the ribeyes are bigger? Anecdotally, I'm going to say no, because we have these tender programs which are set at, we have objective tenderness measurements, and if you are under the certain amount of force it takes to bite into a steak, you're considered to be USDA certified tender or very tender. In my time in meat science, which is about 10 years, I have seen I've sheared thousands of steaks. I've seen like less than 50 that have ever been over that threshold.
Yeah, and so like some of the packers have programs where they're doing surveillance on tenderness from different feedlots and different types of cattle to monitor that, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. And they have their own programs to make sure that as carcasses get bigger, that we're not forgetting about tenderness. And I think for the most part that we still have very tender beef, and it's my maybe a personal opinion that we have the highest quality beef now than we ever have in history.
Yeah, so take all the things considered. Tenderness stays the same, quality grade goes up.
Yep.
Better product to consume.
Better product.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we're going to take our final break, and then when we come back with Dr. Erin, we're going to talk about the impact of carcass size on the consumer. Thanks for watching DocTalk. Thanks for being with us here in Manhattan, Kansas. We'll be right back.
Success in the cattle business hinges on a lot of different people playing their part. From the vet to the cowboy and the nutritionist to the feed truck driver, you rely on them to get their job done right, and so do your cattle. Your expectations for the vaccines you use should be no different. Bimeta's cattle vaccines were developed and are made and sold by men and women in the cattle business. No smoke and mirrors, just real-world protection that you can rely on. Go to BimetaBiologicals.com to learn more.
Hey, I'm Clark Victory. I grew up right here on this little ranch near Chelsea, Oklahoma. Roped and ranched all my life. A few years ago, I had an injury that created what they call a frozen shoulder. And after speaking with the surgeon in Tulsa, he told me that he could make my shoulder better if he did surgery, but he absolutely couldn't fix it. And I called Kansas Regenerative Medical Center. I did the stem cell replacement. By 12:30, my wife and I had lunch and was driving back to Chelsea. We work around here. Some days we work pretty hard around here, and my right shoulder doesn't get sore. It's like a baby's arm.
When you spot BRD in your cattle, that's your golden opportunity to target infection and its associated fever with a single dose of Resflor Gold, the industry standard dual therapy. To learn more, talk to your Merck Animal Health rep or your vet, and see label at resfloorgold.com. Animals intended for human consumption must not be slaughtered within 38 days of treatment. This product is not approved for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows.
Hey folks, for your firearm and ammo needs, for gun safes and much, much more, and to have it personalized, come visit us at United Patriot Supply outside of Seneca, Kansas. You can also visit us online at unitedpatriotsupply.com. Be sure to say that Dr. Dan and DocTalk sent you, and we'll see you down the road.
One animal has this huge impact on your operation.
BVDV is one of the most costly bovine diseases, with losses of $15 to $88 per head.
The virus will actually cross the placenta and get into the fetus. As it's developing, its immune system will recognize that virus as it's supposed to be here. And so then that's where our persistently infected animals come from. They're going to shed that virus their entire life, and then it's going to impact your operation.
It is important to work with your local veterinarian and partner with IDEXX for the best solution for your operation.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Dr. Erin Beyer. We're in Manhattan, Kansas at Kansas State University. We've been talking today about carcass size. We've been talking about how it impacts the plant, how it impacts the carcass and the quality. Now let's talk a little bit about, the consumer and how does this increase in carcass size impact beef in the eye of the consumer?
Right. So really, as a meat scientist, everything that we do really revolves around the consumer. So making sure that any change that we make from the plant or before, that we're not having a negative impact on the consumer. So for the most part, the average consumer would not know that carcass sizes have gotten bigger. Right. I'm not sure that that's a common knowledge if you're not really intimately involved. The only thing that I think is more visible to them is that sometimes they are getting different size steaks. So they might, at a restaurant, they might order a ribeye, and they're ordering it off the menu, maybe 12 ounces, 16 ounces, depending on the type of steak. And maybe they're noticing that it's a little bit thinner than they previously expected. Or they're ordering a different type of steak, and now they're noticing that it's not the same shape as it used to be. Right. It's a KC strip, it should be rectangular in shape, and maybe it's not necessarily that same shape anymore. So I think that they have noticed that there is what we call portion control happening, because as carcasses get bigger, as we've mentioned, we do have some changes to muscle size, and that causes it can be a good thing in some muscles, and we can also see that it's problematic in muscles in which we want them to be an inch thick. As we order steaks at a restaurant, we buy them at retail, we want them to be an inch thick. And it's really hard to do without having a 18-ounce ribeye, right? Right. So at retail, maybe not so much of a problem. They can just pay more for the entire pack. Yep. It's really at food service that we're seeing some changes in this implementation of portion control.
And we've seen that. We hear people that, at different things like Performance Food Group and that, where they're trying to find these steaks, these middle meats. The trim and the grind is expensive today, but finding these middle meats from carcasses that fit a slot for these restaurants is difficult.
It is difficult. So they're having to be more creative, and there's been a lot of research that has really focused on how do we have these bigger carcasses still fit these slots for food service, for consumers. So trying to figure out carcass utilization of these bigger carcasses, because it has changed. Yep. So I think that's kind of a hot topic right now still in our world. So I think that we'll continue to get more innovative.
I don't want them to deconstruct the ribeye. I don't want a cap and my longissimus. I don't want them cut in half. Whatever we do, please help us continue to keep our traditional cuts.
Ribeyes cannot be cut in half, okay? For anyone who's unaware, we have two muscles on a ribeye. My favorite muscle in the body is the cap, the spinalis, and I, under no circumstances, would the meat science world allow that to happen.
All right, good. Well, we just want to say thanks for being on the show, and thanks for spending time with us. Dr. Erin Beyer, just a great resource in meat science for all of us here in Kansas and beyond. And you'll see more of her on the show, I promise. Thanks for watching DocTalk. Remember, if you want to find us on the web, you can find us at www.doctalktv.com. Always work with your local veterinarian. And I'm Dr. Dan Thomson with Dr. Erin Beyer, and we'll see you down the road.
At Merck Animal Health, we support you and your legacy by helping you meet the challenges of today with the innovations of tomorrow.